It's a kids show, but something feels off. Over the years, SpongeBob has become the most iconic cartoon of all time, and with that success came some very strange copies. Over the years, SpongeBob has become the most iconic cartoon of all time. From his pineapple home under the sea to his uncontrollable laugh, he's a cultural phenomenon that has defined childhood for generations. But with all that success, there's a shadowy side most people never think about. One that quietly crept into the animation industry as creators tried to cash in on the magic. It started innocently enough. Networks saw the ratings, they saw the merchandise flying off shelves, and they thought, why not make our own SpongeBob? Same colorful world, same wacky humor, but just different enough to avoid lawsuits. On paper, it sounded easy, but what they created wasn't magic. It was something eerily hollow. One of the most infamous examples would eventually be whispered about among animation fans as the ultimate failed clone. A show so off-putting that even kids could tell something wasn't right. Its colors were bright, its characters loud, but beneath the surface, it felt wrong. And this wasn't the only attempt. Over the years, multiple SpongeBob copies would surface, each one trying to capture that spark, and each one missing it completely. These weren't just bad cartoons, they were strange, sometimes unsettling, sometimes unintentionally creepy. The kind of shows that felt like they belonged in a parallel universe where SpongeBob never existed, but something eerily similar tried to take his place. And the first big example? A bizarre tropical island where the main character's smile was a little too wide, and his cheerfulness hid something much darker. Coconut Fred's Fruit Salad Island premiered in 2005, right at the height of SpongeBob's popularity. On the surface, it was everything a network executive thought kids wanted. Bright colors, loud voices, slapstick humor. The show took place on an island entirely made of fruit, and Coconut Fred, a talking coconut with a permanent grin, was the life of the party. But from the very first episode, something felt off. Fred wasn't like SpongeBob. He wasn't naive or endearing, he was chaotic. His constant grin wasn't joyful, it was manic, almost unblinking. Instead of SpongeBob's innocent curiosity, Fred's antics often destroyed everything around him. His friends didn't really like him, they just tolerated him because there was no escaping the island. That strange tension made the show feel unsettling. The animation didn't help. While SpongeBob's world felt alive and layered, Coconut Fred's had an emptiness to it. Backgrounds were oddly static, movements exaggerated to the point of distortion. The laughter sounded forced, like a track on loop. And then there was Fred's voice.
Oh, bingo. You're just scared.
A hyperactive, high-pitched performance by Rob Paulson that was meant to be funny, but sometimes crossed into something uncomfortably loud, almost desperate. Kids didn't connect with it. Parents found it annoying, and within 2 seasons, it was gone. But its legacy wasn't just that it failed, it was that it proved something important. You can copy the surface of SpongeBob, but without the heart, it becomes a hollow shell. Still, Coconut Fred was just the beginning. What came next in the world of SpongeBob clones would go even further into the strange and forgotten corners of animation history, and some of them you've probably never heard of. After Coconut Fred's strange run ended, networks didn't stop trying. The formula seemed too tempting. An over-the-top main character, a colorful setting, a group of quirky sidekicks. But each attempt seemed to drift further from the charm that made SpongeBob work, venturing into territory that felt stranger, emptier, sometimes even unsettling. One of the earliest and most bizarre was Fish Hooks, 2010 Disney Channel. On paper, it was about 3 fish, Milo, Bee, and Oscar, living inside a fish tank at a pet store. But the style was jarring. Characters were cartoon drawn over real photographic backgrounds, giving it a cut-and-paste look that didn't quite mesh. Instead of SpongeBob's genuine innocence, Milo was loud and reckless, Bee was self-absorbed, and Oscar was socially awkward. The humor relied heavily on shouting and random gags, leaving little of the warmth that kept SpongeBob grounded. Kids either loved its weirdness or felt strangely uncomfortable watching it. Then there was Breadwinners, 2014 Nickelodeon itself, strangely enough. It followed 2 ducks, Sway Sway and Badusi, who delivered bread in a rocket-powered van. It tried SpongeBob's surreal comedy, but cranked the chaos to maximum with rapid-fire cuts, internet meme humor, and characters who never seemed to stop screaming. The animation was intentionally rough and exaggerated, but it often felt like sensory overload. No pauses, no moments to breathe. For some viewers, it was exhausting to watch. Even Almost Naked Animals, 2011 Cartoon Network, took the formula in a strange direction. Anthropomorphic animals wearing only underwear, running a tropical resort. While SpongeBob's world balanced weirdness with charm, Almost Naked Animals leaned into awkward designs and bizarre situations that sometimes bordered on unsettling rather than funny. These shows weren't total failures, they had fan followings, but for many viewers, they felt like distorted reflections of Bikini Bottom. Bright, loud, and wacky on the surface, but missing the heart, the rhythm, and the strange innocence that kept SpongeBob timeless. But among all these oddities, there was one thing in common. None of them could escape the shadow of SpongeBob. And that shadow held a secret about why these copies would never truly succeed. When you strip SpongeBob down to his core, you realize he isn't just a loud cartoon character. He's a perfect balance of chaos and heart. He's endlessly optimistic, but never cruel. He causes trouble, but always out of curiosity or good intentions. And even when things go wrong, his friendships anchor the story, making the audience care about the outcome. The worst SpongeBob copies failed because they misunderstood this balance. They tried to replicate the loudness, the wild colors, and the random humor, but they left out the emotional core. In SpongeBob, even the strangest plots, like selling chocolate bars door to door or fighting over a toy, have a weird sweetness to them. You want him to win. You root for him. In shows like Coconut Fred, Fish Hooks, or Breadwinners, the main characters often didn't have that likability. Fred's chaos felt selfish. Milo's recklessness seemed careless. Sway Sway and Badusi's screaming antics didn't leave space for sincerity. Without that emotional hook, the randomness started to feel empty. Noise without meaning. There's also the world building. Bikini Bottom feels real in its own bizarre way. You know the Krusty Krab, you know SpongeBob's house, you even know the smell of the chum bucket in your imagination. Many of the clones skipped this depth. Their worlds were set pieces, not living places. And then there's timing. SpongeBob mixes rapid-fire gags with moments of silence, awkward pauses, or quiet absurdity. These other shows often feared silence, filling every second with movement, sound effects, or yelling. Without breathing room, the comedy couldn't land. It became exhausting instead of engaging. This is why the shadow of SpongeBob looms so large. It's not just about being funny, it's about making the audience care. And without that, every copy was doomed to fade into the background of cartoon history. But here's the thing. Some of these failed clones didn't just disappear quietly. A few left behind moments so strange, so off-putting, that they've taken on a life of their own in internet legend. And these moments are where things get truly unsettling. Some of the worst SpongeBob copies didn't just vanish. They left behind fragments that still resurface online, sending chills through viewers who stumble across them years later. Odd animation choices, uncomfortable jokes, or characters breaking into moments of unexplainable silence. These weren't just bad writing, they felt wrong. Take Coconut Fred, for example. In one obscure clip shared on a forgotten fan forum, Fred's laughter looped for nearly 20 seconds without change. No background music, no other characters, just that wide-eyed grin and the sound of him laughing over and over. It was meant to be silly but stripped of context. It became almost sinister. Or in Breadwinners, a late series episode featured a shot that lingered too long. Sway Sway staring at the camera for just a few seconds more than felt comfortable. His expression unreadable. For kids, it passed without thought. For older viewers revisiting it later, it was unsettling in a way they couldn't explain. Even Almost Naked Animals had moments where the cheerful tone cracked. Characters suddenly screaming in distorted voices, or their designs warping mid-frame as if the animators were pushing the limits of what the show's style could handle. These strange moments have become part of the internet's fascination with lost media and cartoon creepiness. Fans dig through old recordings, searching for that one scene that felt too weird, too uncomfortable for a kid's show. And while these copies were created to cash in on SpongeBob's success, their unintentional oddities have made them infamous in a different way. Forever remembered as strange, distorted reflections of a world that only SpongeBob could make feel safe. Because in the end, that's the haunting truth. SpongeBob's charm can be imitated in color and sound, but never in soul. And every failed attempt becomes another reminder of just how rare that magic really is. In the colorful world of animation, SpongeBob stands as a rare masterpiece. 1 part chaos, 1 part heart, and 1,000 parts charm. Every copy that tried to follow in his wake learned the same harsh lesson. You can mimic the laugh, the colors, even the wacky settings. But without the soul, it all feels hollow. From Coconut Fred's unsettling grin to Breadwinner's chaotic overload and Almost Naked Animal's strange designs, these shows didn't just miss the mark. They became something else entirely. For some, it was forgettable. For others, it was oddly unsettling. And for a select few moments, they became the kind of scenes that stick in your mind for years. Not because they were good, but because they felt wrong. And maybe that's the lasting legacy of these SpongeBob copies. They remind us that magic can't be reverse engineered. You can't buy the heart of a show. You can't manufacture the innocence that made SpongeBob feel safe, even in his strangest moments. That's something only genuine creativity can create. So next time you see a bright, loud cartoon trying to chase the next big trend, you might want to look closer, because behind the colors and the chaos, there might be something missing. And sometimes, what's missing is what matters most. If you enjoyed diving into the weird world of SpongeBob's strangest copycats, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with your friends who grew up watching cartoons. And if you want more deep dives into the strangest and most fascinating corners of animation history, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon so you never miss our next upload. Trust me, the next story might be even stranger.